going to be a teacher. I knew it from when I was a teenager. I was that babysitter that everyone wanted to have on a Friday night. I went to college, got my education degree, and was teaching fourth grade and thought I was where I was going to land the rest of my life. My husband in 2002, right after we got married, got deployed to Iraq. And I found that I was going home at night and watching the news, which was not what I should have been doing. So naturally, I was looking for a part-time job that in my mind I was going to have for about 6 months. And then I would live the rest of my life as a fourth grade classroom teacher. And thankfully, someone mentioned Sylvan because we are traditionally after school. And so I interviewed there and had the expectation of working for 6 months. And that was 21 years ago. So I started as a Sylvan teacher and just fell in love with the brand and what we were able to accomplish. So I ultimately took a full-time position in those centers, worked my way up to managing those locations. There were 2 at the time. And then my husband and I moved about an hour and a half away. And so I started that journey all over again, started teaching, worked my way up to managing. At that time, they had 3 locations. And then in 2017, so about 5 years ago, the owners at that time were ready to retire and said, "Hey, have you ever thought of becoming a business owner?" And we gave it a quick thought. And what I loved about it is it allowed me to stay within the brand that I so dearly loved, but gave me a little bit more flexibility in my schedule. So I had a little bit more control over that. So we started with 3 centers initially, added a 4th about 9 months later, and then just last year added a 5th and a 6th location. So my husband and I do this full time together now with 6 centers in the mid-Michigan area.
All right, so lots to unpack there. So go backwards as you're taking your journey into this category. Are you thinking business owner at any point, or is there some moment that triggered you to say, maybe I don't just want to work here, I want to own it?
I think the thought never crossed my mind until the owners at that time came to me and said, "We think you have this in you. We see it in you for you to step into this role." So in my mind, I really was always having that educator hat on. But I will say now that I sit in this franchisee role, one of the things we hear consistently from our team is how much they appreciate that I've been in that role because I can look at it from both sides of the table. And so I think that that's helped us with the longevity of our staff and with the retention of our staff, that I can look at things from both sides.
That's awesome. So now you said when you became a franchise owner, you started with 3 locations and now you have 5. Like, is 6.
6.
Is
Yeah.
that mentally trippy at all? Like, I mean, you've scaled, like you are a multi-unit operator, which in franchising, that's a small percentage of franchisees, period. But you've built a tremendous business. Like, do you get a chance to pinch yourself? Do you look back and say, this is crazy?
Yeah. So my favorite story is when I first became a franchisee, one of the very first things I did was hired a business coach. So I knew that I, coming from an education background, needed some business assistance. I didn't know what unemployment insurance was. I didn't know the first thing about creating an employee handbook or FMLA. And so I had the choice to either go back to school to get a business degree or hire a business coach. And we felt like a business coach was right in our situation. And in my 7-year plan, we had written that my husband and I would eventually do this together because we have very complementary strengths. I'm the visionary. I live in the gray world. He was in the military, lives in that black and white, very financially driven. And we wanted to do that at year 7 when we paid off our business debt. And it every time we had the opportunity for a resale, it felt right. And at some point, I think it's really important to trust your gut. Your instinct is there for a reason. So in each case, the owners at that time reached out to us. We haven't done any outreach to grow our teams. But when we visited the centers, we had a feeling that this was a place we were meant to be. And I'm very happy to say that my husband joined me last year at year 4. full-time, and we just this June, so a month ago, added an additional layer to our administrative team. So certainly there were growing pains. That's a fast growth, but I think the great part is our team has been willing to give us some feedback, and they've been very open and transparent along the way too.
That's so awesome. So I think if someone's on the outside thinking about becoming a franchise owner, I think one thing that can help them make them comfortable, which is something that you went through, is how you navigate COVID. And I'll share my opinion as I've spoken with many franchise owners from Sylvan. What I hear is that almost passion took over. Like you knew the difference that you were going to make. That even though financially it might be turbulent, every business was going to be turbulent. Like the purpose ended up triggering up, and clearly in your background with teaching, in a passion for teaching before you even get into this, did that help navigate that? I mean, it doesn't make it easy as a business owner to navigate COVID, but did that help? You felt like there was a purpose beyond just being in business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, my husband is a great story on that flip side. He did not come from an education background, but would listen to me talking at night about our teams and what we're able to accomplish. He would see the stories that we get from families, those life-changing stories that we get honestly on a weekly basis. And even as an outsider to the education world, he was able to say, how nice would it be to be full time and owning this business that changes lives? And that's really why we made the decision to do it together. But I would say the difference between the Sylvan franchise and some other franchise groups that I have some peers in is that ability to network and be a family. This group of franchisees truly cares for each other like no other franchise system that I've heard of. And there's no way I would have gotten through COVID, even through a staffing crisis. There's always going to be a pandemic or a staffing crisis. There's going to be something that comes up. And I know that I've got a good 25 people in my phone that I can call that sit in my seat across the country that will spend hours with me for nothing other than the pleasure of helping a fellow franchisee.
So as I'm listening to you speak, I mean, I keep on hearing teams and people and family. Like ultimately, is that the secret to business? You're not saying I and this is like or mine. You're talking about something that's bigger than you. Is having that mindset essential, in your opinion, to being successful as a business owner too?
Oh, absolutely. And I think part of this is because we are multi-center owners. So I'm not the most important person in any one of our 6 centers. Any given family in our centers, or even some of our part-time staff, may never meet me or may meet me once or twice in their life cycle in the centers. And so part of that is coming from my multi-center background and knowing that I need to have that mentality that my staff, especially my full-time teams, are more important to the success of our business than where I sit and what I do on a day-to-day basis. I feel like my job and my driver really is to make sure that they stay passionate and that I give them the resources and tools to be able to do what I've asked them to do effectively. I think I may have a little bit more centralized language. If I had one center, I would probably be a little bit more internal with that piece. But as a multi-center owner, there's no way I could do that.